by the dawn lily light, what so proudly we hail as the twilight's last gleaming, whose was lips and bright stars through the perilous light. For the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare of bursting in air gave through the line that our flag was still there. Oh, sing us that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Two.
Play ball.
Drop the puck.
Play ball.
I gotta find the Pledge of Allegiance. Who was that?
Our first commander, first vice commander, Ray Franchal will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag.
And salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Go, two.
Is a preamble next?
You got somebody to read it or not?
Yeah, I gotta find it. Bob Rath. Call on Bob Rath.
Bob Rath, would you please come forward?
Oh, you got it there?
The preamble to the Constitution. We, the veterans of the Naval Construction Forces and the Civil Engineer Corps of the United States Navy, who have honorably served our country during time of war and peace, recognizing that the service to God and country is the foundation on which our nation was founded, do hereby rededicate ourselves to that service and further pledge our lives and actions to preserve the fundamental ideals of American government, which we believe are justice, freedom, and equality for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. First of all, I want to say thank you for all of you who have shown up today. This is a special day for the Seabees, not only here, but across the United States, because this very statue is being unveiled today represents the Seabees of World War II and the Seabees from that time up until today, and will always represent the Seabees. Now, I'd like to introduce George Trautman, our past commander. I'm Len Marmot. I had to take over today because John Smith, who was the master of ceremonies on the program, his wife is very sick in the hospital and he couldn't make it. So I'm going to do my best. George?
That's the Seabee spirit, can do, as they always say. I'd like to welcome Admiral Shear. We appreciate your coming this far and welcome to this type of buffalo weather that we've provided for you. And distinguished guests and friends. Well, the emphasis today is on Joe Darlack. It's Veterans Day and we celebrate all veterans. I want to recognize and thank the Dorothy C. Darlack Memorial Fund for truly making this monument a place for visitors to stop and remember. We have long looked forward to this dedication and seeing the reality of our dreams go forward. you hand me that book back there? My daughter suggested that we have a guest book here, and people have written, I'll just take one from random here. The Children of St. Mark's Lutheran School. It is great to see this monument. The kids really enjoyed learning about the Seabees. Our cousin is currently serving in Iraq. Thank you to all the men, women who made this country the land of the free and the home of the brave. And it's filled with sayings like that, so people come here and can think and recognize their loved ones that have gone beyond and in serving their country. We would not be here today if it were not for Gail Johnstone, the former president and CEO of the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo. Her organizational skills and get-it-done expertise made it happen. All of the selection committee, I think, is here today. There's Gail Lawrence, there's Ken Wendt, and myself from the Seabees, and Myra Lawrence over there. And did Ken Payne, did anybody see him here today? Okay. And David Granville. They selected, they were the ones that interviewed the various artists that Gail had chosen to write to and help pick the artists. We are surrounded by 2,000 men and women's names, many of whom paid the ultimate sacrifice during their service to their country. But fortunately, there are also many of us here today who remember our service and can attest to the ways in which our experience in the Seabees built our character, shaped our destination, and helped to determine the kind of men we would become. I'll close with a story about how fate can change your life, how a little rubber stamp changed my destiny. In 1943, I graduated from high school, and I got a little note from the President of the United States saying to report to the induction center. So this was in September of 1943. So as I was being processed, a clerk rubber stamped my papers, Navy. I handed it back to him and said, I don't want to go in the Navy, I want to go in the Army. He says, tough kid, you're in the Navy now. Next thing I knew, I was on a troop train headed for Williamsburg, Virginia. Now that didn't make any sense because all the friends I knew that went in the Navy, they went to Sampson Training Center down by the Finger Lakes. So I arrived at Camp Perry in the Seabee training base, and apparently Douglas MacArthur had once made the statement to Vice Admiral Ben Moreell, the only trouble with your Seabees is that there aren't enough of them. I guess that's where I came in. After 4 weeks of war training with a Marine drill instructor who had a chip on his shoulder, I got to leave home, reported back, and was sent to California. And this kid from Tonawanda that never saw an ocean before found himself in the middle of the Pacific and going on his way to Island X. The island turned out to be Espiritu Santo, New Hebrides, the home of cannibals and headhunters. Anyway, I survived, as you can see. And one day I went to I was walking by the recreation hall that the Seabees had built, and I heard the music come. It was Bing Crosby singing Swinging on a Star. And I went in, and there was a Wurlitzer jukebox built right here in North Tonawanda. So that made me feel a little better at home. And during my 2 years overseas, Congress passed the GI Bill because I had never dreamed of going to college. And so when I got home, I decided I wanted to be an engineer. So I went to the University of Buffalo and got a BS in engineering, and then later got a PE license. And now, some 60 years later, I have my own 78 RPM Wurlitzer, and guess what I'm playing as I'm swinging on a star. And they also, another song on there is My Dreams Are Getting Better All the Time. Thank you.
Thank you, George. George and his committee has been working on this day for the past 2.5 years. They've had a lot of good days, they've had better days, they've had bad days, and they've had some real bad days. But they made it. That's the way of the Seabees. Weather and changes never stopped us, and it never stopped George and his committee. How about a rising hand for George and the committee? Now I'm going to call on the Honorable Lawrence Soos, Mayor of North Tonawanda, to say a few words. Mayor?
Thank you. Good morning. When I left the house about a half hour ago, I walked outside and said, boy, it's kind of nippy out. It's kind of cold. And when I got here, I looked around and I saw the amount of people here that want here to pay tribute to our veterans. It kind of warmed me to the bone, and I really mean that. This is a great tribute you're paying for these people that have made all these sacrifices to keep our country free. And I want to welcome you to the event. Welcome again to North Tonawanda's Fisherman Park. I've declared in the past that our city is a city of monuments. And today, Veterans Day, a day set aside to remember all who have served, we stand here ready to unveil another tribute to the men and women who trained and fought and sometimes died in service to our great country, the United States of America. Today we are gathered to dedicate the Seabee statue in honor of Joseph Darlack and 350,000 military personnel who served as Seabees during World War II. We build, we fight for peace, for freedom. You and your comrades have given Americans, and indeed the world, the freedom we celebrate today. I applaud you for what you have given, but also for what you still give. I thank the Corps of Seabees that have committed timeless hours of planning and work to keep this site fit for such a monument. You are the living proof of what the Seabees are all about. Thank you for your service to your country, both yesterday and today, and to the city of North Tonawanda for this great monument in this great park. I'd like to read a proclamation from my office. Thank you. Whereas the Seabees, the construction battalions of the United States Navy, that were formed in 1941 to build airstrips, bases, roads, and whatever needed building to support the war effort, and in fact the fighting Seabees played an instrumental role in the greatest victory known to man, the defeat of the Axis powers in World War II. And whereas over 325,000 personnel served bravely and honorably on 6 continents in the Seabees during World War II, and today this division of the Navy is still building and still fighting to ensure freedom throughout the world. Whereas we are gathered here today, Veterans Day, to honor all Seabees for their skill and bravery, and in particular we honor Joseph Darlack for his service and for his sacrifice to his country. Now therefore, as mayor of our North Tonawanda, the city monuments, I do hereby proudly declare today, November 11, 2008, as Fighting Seabee Day. Congratulations for your accomplishments and for your example to the community, the nation, and the world. Thank you.
Now I'd like to call on Senator George Maziarz. George?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Leonard. I too want to add my thanks to the Darlack family, Joe Darlack. This is a great memorial, the Greater Buffalo Foundation for all of their assistance, but mostly to George and to his committee. They never gave up. It's very important that we should have a memorial like this to the hard work that the Seabees did. It is very important and appropriate that we would dedicate it this day, Veterans Day of 2008. Just a few short weeks ago, I was honored to escort a group of World War II veterans back to Washington, D.C. to see another very beautiful memorial on the Mall in Washington, the World War II Memorial. And at that memorial, there is a wall of gold stars. Each gold star represents 100 individuals, 100 American military personnel, sailors, Seabees, Marines, airmen, soldiers, merchant Marines who did not return. Each star represents 100 of those individuals. There are 4,000 stars on that wall, representing 400,000 fatalities during World War II. And there's a small inscription beneath that wall that states, "Here lies the price of freedom." It is most appropriate that we should have these young Boy Scouts here today and other young people here today that will be able to come to this memorial, this improved bronze statue, to remember the hard work and the sacrifice that those World War II and other veterans have given to this country over our many years. So thank you again, and congratulations to the Seabees. You did a great job here. You've always done a great job. You've always been there when your country needed you. You're there when your fellow citizens need you too. Thank you. Thanks.
George, thank you.
Now we've come to the part of our program of why we're all here today. I'm going to ask Brian Porter to please come forward. Brian?
Thank you.
Did you want to say something?
I did. Thank you for all coming here today to be part of this historic moment. As the chosen artist for this sculpture, I'm honored to be forever linked to this memorial and to be associated with Dorothy Darlack, the fighting Seabees of World War II, and the Seabees of this community. The inspiration for this wonderful sculpture came directly from the uncommon valor possessed by all Seabees in holding their duty. The sculpture design reflects their special responsibilities to build and construct and defend and fight. I want to thank the Dorothy C. Darlack Fund and its administrators, the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo, as well as the Seabee Committee. I need to thank the local Seabees for their equipment and assistance, George Trautman, Ken Wendt, and thank you to a wonderful artist, colleague, and friend, Kenneth Payne. Thank you all for being here today, and I am proud to be able to unveil this lasting tribute for the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Now we're going to ask Rear Admiral Shear to please come forward, and the Admiral's going to cut the ribbon. There it is, a real fighting Seabee. We'll now have the song of the Fighting Seabees sung.
Let me get my program here.
We're the Seabees of the Navy. We can hail and we can fly. We'll pave our way to victory and guard it day and night. And we promise we will remember the 7th of December. We're the Seabees of the Navy, bees of the 7 seas. The Navy on the way, and the brown and Mr. skin as we all joined up and come to win with the Seabees of the Navy. We can fight and we can fight. We'll pave our way to victory and guide it day and night. And we promise we will remember the 7th of December with the Seabees of the Navy. These are the 7 seas.
Thank you. I'd like to call Gail Johnstone forward. Gail has been a big part of getting what we have today. And I'll let her explain how and why.
Thank you. It is such a thrill to be here with everyone in the audience with this marvelous sculpture and wonderful statue. I am very honored to be part of today's program. Enabling the creation of this magnificent bronze statue that we just unveiled was one of the most meaningful projects to me during my decade at the Community Foundation. And this date and this event have also special additional personal significance to me. My father was in the Navy. He enlisted almost immediately after Pearl Harbor and served as the gunner officer on a destroyer in the Pacific, fortunately coming home after the war. And November 11th was the date that my parents chose to get married. Maybe to help my dad remember anniversaries, but November 11th has always been a very big day in our family. The foundation did extensive work enabling this to take place, but I would like to recognize the other people whose commitment made possible this statue we just dedicated. Joseph Darlack, to whom this sculpture is dedicated, served as a Seabee from 1942 to 1945. Both in the Caribbean and in the Pacific theaters. As the program documents, after the war, for well over 40 years, he was a successful public accountant and involved in many civic activities. However, the highlight of his life was his short time in active duty in the Seabees, something many in this audience obviously understand. Honoring Joe's love of the Seabees here would not have happened without Dorothy Darlack, Joe's wife of 36 years. A picture of Dorothy and Joe is right to the, well, my left of the statue. In her will, Dorothy established a fund at the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo to improve and preserve the Seabee Memorial at Fisherman's Park in North Tonawanda. That this improvement includes this sculpture was the result of the passion of Island X-8, especially of Doug Franchel and Al Kravitz, followed by Ken Wendt and the incomparable George Trautman. You know that. Ken and George took part in every detail in the selection of the sculptor and the progression of the sculpture with extraordinary skill, persistence, and commitment. And George also planned every detail of today's event, even becoming a detective to find other Darlack relatives so they could be invited to the event too. That this sculpture is so outstanding owes thanks to Kenneth Payne, who I saw until the ceremony started. Ken, where are you? Raise your hand, because, do you see anybody with a hand up? A tall, handsome gentleman with a hand up? All right, that's Kenneth Payne, who is himself an active sculptor and a professor in the Fine Arts Department at Buffalo State College, who said yes when I asked him if he would serve as the chair of the selection committee. And Ken engineered a really by-the-books spectacular process, inviting some of the best sculptors in the region, asking them to show their prior work, make a small maquette of the sculpture they would make for this commission, and come explain their sculptures to a committee. That committee ultimately chose the incredibly talented sculptor who created this magnificent Seabee in action that will be here on this park to inspire youngsters and everyone with the mission of the Seabees, the tenor of the Seabees, and the grit of the Seabees forever. The Community Foundation, I also want you to know, was so very honored to have Dorothy Darlack's trust in us and our ability to have the privilege of ensuring that her legacy, honoring her husband, would be handled as she wished it in this sculpture, in this park, now and forever. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Gail. Now I'd like to call on the Honorable Raymond Pilozzi, Mayor of North Tonawanda, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Leonard. It's always an honor to come back to my hometown for anything, but especially for something like this. As most of you know, the Seabees Island X is located in the city of Tonawanda, so I have a real close spot in my heart for both the city of North Tonawanda and the Seabees. At any rate, it's a great pleasure for me to be here today. It's a real honor to be here for the unveiling of this monument to Mr. Darlack. And I have a close place in my heart also for the Navy. I was wounded pretty badly in the DMZ in Vietnam. Instead of going to an Army medevac, I went to the USS Sanctuary. If it wasn't for the Navy, I wouldn't be here today. They kept me alive, and I ended up getting